Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Harold Campos. I am a PM for Azure Integration Services. And today I will present another episode of our Mission Critical series, We Speak, where we address how Azure Logic Apps plays in enterprise mission critical environments. The topic for today's session is IBM 3270 or mainframe green screens. What is 3270? In the SNA days, the display management protocol used to facilitate the communication between end users and a mainframe was called the 3270 data stream. At the end user location in an SNA network, there was a device referred to as 3270 terminal. Now, as networks migrated from SNA to IP, so then the implementation of 3270 was upgraded as well. And the technology used to move from SNA 3270 applications to TCP IP is called today TN3270, short for Telnet 3270. Now, what are typical SNA applications? Because in the old days SNA was pervasive, right? So there was this definition of the 32 based applications and the application to application communication. 3270 applications are the ones that typically use the 3270 stream, as we just point out, and they are displayed on 3270 screens or green screens, and their execution depend is we call it a dependent execution, or that they are invoked with dependent sessions because they require an arbitration from the mainframe. So in other words, the mainframe controls the sessions of each one of the clients who are being connected, as opposed to the application to application like it as we see it today, where you can just execute transactions directly from your cell phone and such and such. So there is a difference that in one case the mainframe controls the sessions, and in the other case the mainframe is just available to serve any session that can be opened by any client. Now that we are making this distinction in this episode because um, to talk a little bit about why are we having this 3270 connector or 3270 abilities is because not every single application that we interact from a web application, from a cloud service, from a web app, from a cell phone or whatever can be called in an independent manner. So in other words, we have to consider that many of the applications that exist today in a mainframe, they still have coupling between the actual presentation layer and the business logic, because that's the way how it was coded before, right? Today there is a lot of emphasis in splitting, creating tiers, separation of concerns. Back in the day, sometimes programmers they just coded business logic inside the actual program that presents a map. So in other words, everything was coupled. So then, in many cases, when today we want to leverage or reuse a particular business logic, so then it's hard to isolate it. You will have to do some coding on the mainframe. So to avoid that, that's where we start using our abilities to integrate with these 3270 programs. So what you are seeing here is the high-level schema of how is it that we invoke these 3270 programs. To do that, you are going to be using our connector in Logic Apps, the IBM 3270 connector. And this connector will be reading some metadata that you have to prepare for the connector to understand. If you have an application that has, I don't know, let's say 10 screens, and these 10 screens are used to get a balance, to provide you to insert some to update your information or account information, um, or things of the sort. So then you will have to create a recording of this sequence of events for these screens, for this task to be accomplished. And once you have created that recording, the recording will generate some metadata that will be used by the connector. So then it's like the connector will be acting as if you were in the actual screens, in the host, in the mainframe. So then you can integrate other technologies to your existing process in the mainframe. Now let's talk a little bit about how to set it up. The first thing that you need to do is you need to download the 3270 design tool. I recently created a video on using the 3270 design tool and how to download it. I'm adding the information how to download it in video description as well. But you can go to my channel and then watch that video first, because you have to follow a number of steps to create that recording. I'm not going to be covering that today because this has to be a very short episode. But feel free to go to my channel and just follow the instructions how to set it up, because it's free. You can download the tool, and then connect to the mainframe, and then create a sample recording, or use one of the existing recordings that is available in the SDK. And so you can just test it on your own without having the need of interacting with the mainframe. So once you have the HIDX file or the metadata that is prepared for the connector, so then you will have to set it up. You will require some information to actually connect to the mainframe. Um, for instance, the port number, the server name. In this case, can be a TCP/IP address, right? And we always recommend using securing your network between the Logic app and you have to link it to a VNet for such, using express route. There are steps on that in many of the videos that I have published, but I will be adding one video about securing the networks between a mainframe and a Logic app very soon. So then you will be able to select your HIDX file, the one that the metadata that you created out of the recording when you create your workflow, and then you upload it. You upload that HIDX file, and then it's going to recognize a method that you have created in this recording, like for instance, to get the balance. Something that is important is the IBM 3270 connector available today in the portal requires an integrated service environment, ISE. The new IBM 3270 in-app connector that I am showcasing, that I'm using in this presentation, does not require an ISE, and this is in private preview. If you're interested in having access to it, reach out to your account team or post a comment in the video or send me a note. Now let's see how the connector works. Let's take a look. Yeah, of course, why not? To the short demo that I have for you. I am in the portal now, and I'm going to show you how to set up the IBM 3270 connector. But before doing so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how is it that I'm leveraging an existing recording of this type. So you will be using the 3270 design tool, and then with the tool you will be able to create this recording, demo 32, this one. So then once you have the recording of all of the screens that do a particular task, for instance, returning a balance, right? So then and there are instructions to do so again in the video available in the channel. So then you're going to be able to test it, and once it's connected, so then you will be able to extract a value of it. In this case, the balance, getting the balance 41,772.16. So if I go to the portal, to the workflow that I just created, I can create one now, but in the interest of time, I just created it this morning. So I created one HTTP request trigger, and then I execute a navigation plan. This navigation plan is the one that will be including your HIDX file that is generated when you have access to the recording. There is an option here that is called generate definitions, and this generate definitions was going to do, it's going to create in your let me see if it's here, in your directory, this HIDX file. It was just created now. So this is Pacific time zone. So if you go back to the 3DT tool, you can see the flow again. And then if we go to the portal, we have to upload this HIDX file under maps. So you go to the artifacts maps, and then you upload here the HIDX file that was generated, the 3270 in my case. And then when you go to workflows, you're going to be able to see the workflow, and that you had. You go to the designer, um, and then you add the execute a navigation plan in IBM 3270 which is the connector that we're going to be using. So let me do this 3270. we take, as you see, you will see two entries here. This one is the one that you are not going to be using. You're going to be using the one that is called in-app, because this is about the standard connector, right? Execution and a navigation plan, and then when you add this a navigation plan, this is where you will see the option to add your HIDX file. And this HIDX file will have a method where you will have to enter parameters, right? So these parameters are name and account in this particular case. I'm going to discard this, yes. And then I'm going to show you what I have. So I enter the same information, key makers, check 4566112, and then I go to the workflow, and then I run it, right? So then I'm going to run it, and then I'll go to run history. It's running now. Hit refresh. Hopefully it will be done soon. And when I go to see the history of the execution, I'll see that in the response I have uh, exactly the same amount, because as I said, so what happens on the recording is being transferred to in a way. So what you're seeing in the recording with the 3D tool, it's what you are going to be executing in this navigation plan. So that's the reason why we call it navigation plan, because you are going to be navigating through different screens. And this is important to mention, because it's very critical that you are very thorough in the definition of this recording, because on the thoroughness and the accuracy of the definition of these screens and steps is how you're going to be able to achieve the best results when you execute these screens from the portal. So again, what you've seen is that you have access a particular number of screens, and these screens in the mainframe, they yield a result, or they execute an action. So you're going to be able to extract all of that, consolidate it, save it as metadata, store it in an HIDX file, and then use that HIDX file from the Azure portal, in particular from Logic Apps. And this is it. So this was the demo. I hope you liked it, and then stay tuned for more videos on the channel. Thank you and enjoy your day.